Hey everybody, Hoosier Jedi here with another review for you. This time we're talking episode 1 of season 2 of The Flash called The Man Who Saved Central City. And, it really has been worth the wait. The show, when it came back, it was like, man, I really do remember just why watching this show made me so happy. It is just so fun. And honestly, that was something that I really needed Tuesday night. Long story short, Tuesday was a really, really, really bad day for me for multiple reasons that are not actually relevant. But being able to have that sort of adventure, that hour with Barry and the gang, it definitely helped to lighten my mood on what was proving to be a very, very tough night. So, with that said, let's get right into things. Now, as they did say, it's been a couple of months. I think they said 6 since the events of the previous episode. And I'm kind of a little so-so on the way they sorted that out. I mean, when I was watching that finale several months ago, I was like, okay, Barry's going to run up into the singularity and run around in a circle? How is that going to help things? And of course, it's all comic book science, and they even get to Firestorm to step in and help make the whole problem go away. Kind of convenient that nobody really seemed to notice that, hey, this thing opened up right over Star Labs, the place where there was that huge explosion several months ago, right before all these crazy people with powers started popping up. Well, several months before these crazy people with crazy powers started popping up. Yeah. There is that. Plus, how in the name of God has Barry been able to afford the rent and property taxes on Star Labs? I mean, I guess he got Harrison Wells' bank account or something as well. Whatever. Comic book logic. But anyway, so Flash stopping the singularity with the help from Firestorm. I mean, again, comic book science, but it was a reasonably satisfying conclusion. And it did leave us in the situation where Martin Stein was able to escape, but Ronnie Raymond is missing and presumed dead. Now, most likely he's been whisked off to Earth 2 or something or other. The real reason, of course, being that Robbie Amel's other acting opportunities have really, really, really taken off lately. Now, it has been confirmed that he is going to come back for some guest appearances, and I imagine that'll continue. Whenever they're able to work him in and they have a script that makes sense for him to be in, I'm sure he'll be glad to step in. But for the moment now, Firestorm and what's going to be up with him is a question mark. Now, if you've been following the production news, you may have some idea as to where things are going to go in regards to that, but let's just sort of leave that aside. So it is basically the death of Robbie that really compounds, of course, the death of Eddie and leaves Barry in such an enormous funk where he really just sort of bristles at the idea that he's anyway really a hero. It was really Robbie and Eddie's sacrifices that saved Central City, and nobody out there really knows. They think it was all the Flash. So he sort of feels like as if sort of accepting any level of gratitude would be dishonoring the memories of these two guys. And remember, he and Eddie did not always get along. Eddie came around, but even then, they did have that love for Iris in common. So Barry really does have that enormous guilt that's carrying him around. And of course, here it is. It's only been a little while that Caitlin and Ronnie have been able to enjoy being married. And then suddenly, because Barry wasn't powerful enough, fast enough, smart enough, she lost him again. And, Iris is gone. Eddie is gone, which is a tough blow for Iris, and not exactly an insignificant blow for Joe either. And in general, Eddie had earned the respect of Team Flash. I mean, Barry liked Eddie, and the others did too. So, yeah, it really does make sense that Barry would not want to step in there and accept the accolades of all these people, even with the closest prodding from his closest friends, who just in order to not risk hurting them again, not put the people that they care about in danger, he's been pushing them away. But this all kind of leads into the whole getting the band back together. And I really love how it was the team that stood up to Barry and said, hey, this is our fight too. You don't get to just call this quits. We're a team. We're in this together. We have a say in this. And it's a very, very interesting sort of reflection of Team Flash versus Team Arrow, especially if, like me, you just finished watching Arrow not that long ago, as in like less than half an hour ago for me, as I record this. So yeah, that was really some good stuff there, especially with the way how Iris really took point on that. Her relationship with Eddie was kind of a so-so thing, but now that he's out of the picture, it does leave Iris a lot more room to stand on her own as a character. And I really can't wait to see what Candice Patton does with that. She's a really talented actress, and she really stepped up in this episode and brought some really quality acting to that situation. So, lots of respect for her. And, everybody else in this episode did a really great job, too. And this all leads us, of course, into the big ceremony honoring the Flash. I mean, Flash Appreciation Day. We saw in the last episode the possibility of the Flash Museum existing one day. And, that is one of the really great things about the Flash. In that he's like Superman, in that his city genuinely loves him. Superman, has in the comics, or maybe he doesn't anymore. I can't keep up with what's continuity in DC anymore. But for a longest time, there was actually a statue of him in Metropolis's main park. And the Flash is really often honored by the people of Central City or Keystone City, depending on which one we're talking about here. There's also that really great episode of Justice League where Batman and Orion pay a visit to Central City where the Flash is. And they see him just sort of, chatting with the various people around town. Everybody likes the Flash. He's like the cool guy that everybody knows and everybody likes. And that's one of the things that I've always really liked about the DC universe, is that while there are exceptions, like Batman, for the most part, people embrace the superheroes among them. The superheroes, they go and they'll talk on television. They will go out there and deal with people on a one-on-one level. And not to say that they don't do that in the Marvel universe, but I just love the idea that the heroes are embraced and honored and revered by the ordinary people. And I suppose slightly more realistic, or if you want to be a little bit more harsh about it, cynical take of the Marvel universe, where public adoration is an extremely fickle thing. Well, I won't say that you're totally wrong, but it's that positiveness of the DC universe in regards to how people view their heroes. Now, not that there aren't exceptions over at DC, but just in general, has always really struck a very positive chord with me. But anyway, let's just kind of get right back into the episode. So I do like that they found interesting things to do with everybody in the interim time. I think it was Mark Guggenheim. I saw an interview with him over the summer where he said he really likes shows that at the end of every season kind of blow the status quo right out of the water, and then the next season they bring it back and everybody's in a totally different place, in a totally different situation, and yet kind of what's really going on is never what's going on with the show is never at risk of becoming stagnant. Let's put it that way. And I do think that's actually not a bad philosophy to think of. We pick up with Cisco. He's been working with Joe on the Metahuman Task Force. He's gotten to know Captain Singh. He's inventing tech for the Central City PD. I mean, all cool stuff there. Oh, and speaking of which, the dream sequence at the beginning, that was cool. I mean, Heatwave and Captain Cold just being ridiculously over the top, and I absolutely loved Wentworth Miller's just absolutely barely contained glee with, "I swear to God, I'm gonna kill him someday." It's so nice when you can see that an actor is just having an absolute ball with the character they're getting to play. And I definitely think Miller is a very, very happy man with Captain Cold. And of course, that all led to that scene with Harrison Wells popping up. And of course, that's when we all figure out, well, at least for sure, that this is a dream sequence. But anyway, going back to what I was saying, yeah, good stuff there with Cisco. And it does really make sense that the Keystone City PD are really going to try and step up their game, because they definitely didn't enjoy being the punching bags for Captain Cold and Heatwave last time around. So if this sort of technology, them sort of upping the ante in terms of technology, it kind of makes me wonder if they might not be heading in the direction of the Special Crimes Unit, that you see in the Superman comics. They're sort of the police who have that extra technology and to sort of respond to all this super-powered craziness, particularly when Superman is not around. Sorry, it's a little warm in here. But anyway, that's just me spitballing, but I think it would be an interesting idea. Caitlin going off to work for Mercury Labs. I like they name drop Dr. McGee. Hopefully, we might get to see her again. I'm still very intrigued by what's going on with Mercury Labs, because, well, the name Mercury and the Flash mythology. Well, you think of two things. You think Jay Garrick's hat, and you think Max Mercury. And really, there are only like 3 speedsters from the Flash family who we haven't really heard a word about yet. And that's, of course, Bart Allen, Johnny Quick, and Max Mercury. And oh god, I'm hoping that Mercury Labs somehow leads to something involving Max Mercury, because I love Max Mercury. He is a cool guy. He's been referred to as by Bart Allen the Zen Master of Speed, and that's a very fitting title. Max Mercury is a cool dude. Let me see. What else do we have? Oh yeah. Speaking of Caitlin, it was great that she did come to that thing at the park for the Flash, and I love how you can tell during their conversation that she never blamed Barry for what Ronnie did. Not even for a second. That was all Barry blaming himself. But getting back to the ceremony for the moment, what really more needs to be said? The doors to this city will always be open to you, Flash. It's just such a poignant moment. There were other people who helped save the city, but Barry had done so much, lost so much, sacrificed so much. And as Captain Cold himself even said, who doesn't like a thank you? Just that moment of goodness, of acknowledging someone for what they've done, that really, really strikes home with me. And I kind of really wish that we could have gotten to see Barry give some sort of a speech, but whatever. There's no superhero event that can't be spiced up by a supervillain attack, in grand comic book tradition, of course. And this time around, we get Atom Smasher. Now, in the comics, Atom Smasher is actually a hero, and I know this has kind of thrown people off a little bit. I mean, it's not a choice I'm particularly thrilled by, especially since, for 2 reasons. One, Al Rothstein, Atom Smasher's real name, was mentioned as having been one of the people killed during the particle accelerator explosion, along with characters like Grant Emerson and Beatrix DaCosta. Now, in the comics, those 2 are Damage and Fire, respectively. And yet here we see Al Rothstein from the regular world where Barry and them come from, and he's killed, heavily implied, by his counterpart from Earth 2. So there's a continuity clash there. I saw people talking about it online, and I think we might just have to chalk that up to the writers goofed. My real question was why did he kill Al Rothstein kill his counterpart on Earth 1? I mean, we saw him later on hanging out somewhere. I thought, like, well, did he kill his counterpart for the keys to his apartment? But they said that the Al Rothstein of Earth 1 was married. Where was his wife? And really, why in the world would you go to another Earth and kill your other self just for the keys? I mean, really, is it that hard if you're a badass superhuman to steal some money and go to a hotel? That just doesn't make sense to me. But whatever, Atom Smasher's dead. Who knows? I don't really have a huge amount to say about the fellow that played him. I don't really know a lot about the guy, just that he's like a WWE wrestler who goes by the name of Edge. Now, wrestlers being cast in superhero movies, not anything new, but I think a lot of us were all still feel seriously burned by what was that, Batman and Robin, or whatever the hell the really, really crappy one with Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy was. And not to say that it's bad. I mean, Tyler Mane was a reasonably good Sabretooth, and you got to give a lot of love to Batista over in Guardians of the Galaxy. He did a phenomenal job, phenomenal. So, yeah, I mean, I got no complaints about the guy's performance. It's just it was neither bad nor good. I mean, he did a serviceable job. And of course, they kill Atom Smasher off in a frankly ridiculous way. Flash, aren't people going to be mad that you let a destructive maniac into a nuclear power plant? And does anybody notice that, like, these guys basically killed Atom Smasher? They lured him into a trap and killed him. That's not very heroic. That's what Oliver would have done, Barry. For the love of God, he is dead from radiation poisoning. I mean, is nobody gonna say anything about this? I mean, Team Flash just killed a dude. Although, how awesome was it when Martin Stein just absolutely geeked out and was like, let's call him Atom Smasher because he's got nuclear powers and he smashes stuff. And then Cisco hugs him. I'm like, oh my God. It's like, Cisco, I love you. And that was really like, okay, Professor Stein is totally on the team now. He's earned it. And it's always great when other people besides Cisco come up with names, because that's when we get the really, really ridiculous ones. Anyway. Nothing really hugely particular to say about Joe, except that flashback Joe, where he got through to young Barry and let him know that it was okay to feel pain and grieve for the loss of his mother and what happened to his father. That was some pretty awesome stuff. And let me see, what else? Well, I don't have a huge amount to say about Zoom. It has been confirmed that the person who's going to be doing the voice of Zoom is Tony Todd. And he's best known for doing the voice of Candyman in the Candyman horror movies. Although he does have some comic book credentials under his belt. I think he did the voice of Darkseid in one of the Lego DC Universe games. What's really weird is when I was actually in Chicago at C2E2, gosh, was it only last year? I was actually in line to get the autograph of Ernie Hudson, aka Winston from Ghostbusters. And at the booth basically right by that, while I was waiting in line, who should come up but, hey, Tony Todd. I mean, there was even a guy with a microphone announcing who he was and talking about, like, hey, it's the guy from the Candyman movies. Come over here and get Tony Todd's autograph. I'm like, oh, Candyman. I've seen part of one of those movies. And then there he is. So I didn't get to talk to him or anything, but I at least got to see Tony Todd in person through sheer dumb luck, which in a way kind of makes up for me back in March actually not being able to go and see Katie Lotz when she was doing a signing a couple of hours from me down in Metropolis, Illinois. I just didn't have the cash to make it to for that trip. But any case, yeah, that's all I got for you guys this time around. This season is off to a good, fun start. I'm really excited about this, and I think we are in for a hell of a fun season. I mean, there is so much stuff that has been announced. Oh, gee, yeah, there was one other little tiny thing. My name is Jay Garrick, and your world is in danger. Guys, can you believe we live in a world where we're getting live action Jay Garrick? Jay Garrick, the original Flash. I mean, for God's sake, if I remember right, the next episode is called Flash of Two Worlds, and we're going to get to see a live action recreation of the famous Flash of Two Worlds cover. It just blows my mind that I'm living in a world where this is real, where this is possible. If you'd have told me that this sort of stuff would have been happening when I was back in high school, I'd have thought you were on drugs. This is back then in the 90s. You got laughed at for liking comic books. Come to school wearing a Captain America shirt? Yeah, prepare to get your ass kicked behind the gym. And now look at the world we live in. You walk down the street, ordinary guys are wearing Avengers t-shirts and nobody bats an eye. You'll see women wearing Iron Man t-shirts. Not that there weren't female fans back then, but outside of a comic book show, you would never on God's green earth see that. I've said it before and I'll say it again, ladies and gentlemen. This is a golden age we are living in as geeky people. Enjoy it. And with that said, I'm going to call it here. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Who's Your Jedi. Until next time, take care and have a good one.